Aquaian interviews, guest host, Zolid.
Well, it's wonderful to be here. I'm Ron Gates, and my channel is called Earth-O-Vision.
And what do you do? What is about Earth-O-Vision?
It's my way of trying to contribute to hopefully advancing the future of humans. Like right now, I got so much to complain about. The world and, like a lot of people, and government and religions and the way that people treat each other. And so in my mind, rather than getting upset with how things are now, I like to project myself into the future, and I call them science fiction stories, but I like to imagine and make videos about the future when humans have learned to get along. We don't use violence against each other. We learn to work with each other. And people are happier, a lot less frustration in the future, I hope.
Do you see that as a possibility in this world, and this lifetime?
Yes, it usually requires planting the seed. So if all our media and the things that we entertain in our minds are about dystopia and robots killing us, and then we almost make the seeds come to life. So if we do more positive stories of advanced futures, very creative human beings, we have a better chance of actually making it happen.
I believe that start of creating a present, right?
Yeah, they've said that about some of the old science fiction writers. They were just being creative, but give 50 years and humans start to use that as a blueprint on what to do. So that makes me think, well, instead of doing stories about some horrible future where robots kill us or things like that, let's plant those seeds in a positive way. Let's make a wonderful future, wonderful transportation systems where people get along, the way people integrate, like a future society that's advanced.
Yeah, but we are forgetting something that is fear, right? The media works with fear.
Right.
So this channel and your channel is kind of connecting to an alternative media.
Good.
And this is the one we have control. The other one we don't have control.
No, and see, sadly, I spent many years working in Hollywood, a film student. It was the dream. But then the more I realized, we're really manipulating our peoples, our country, and fear is very important. So that instead of doing, like I talk about a utopia story society, they don't want that. They want to show dystopian, where people are so scared and their peace is disrupted that they will then rely on a government to look out for them. Without the fear, the formulas wouldn't work. So they don't actually want happy people. When I worked in Hollywood, it wasn't about wonderful stories of families getting along, being honest with each other and with their neighbors. It was about lying, deceiving, doing lots of sins, every sin, getting away with it, cheating, killing each other. We would show stories that would scare our audience and break their peace, only so that they'd be more manipulatable, more obedient, the perfect working class. And in my mind, that's old-fashioned stuff. They used to call us slaves, and in those days, how do you control the slaves? And it used to be whips and chains and threats, and now they're using our minds. They're using our minds to control us. It's all the same efforts. Work. People spend, in fact, nowadays they're working twice as much. They're working double hours.
Yeah, and they work both, father and mother.
And even
right?
that.
Before I have a theory about that, and they utilize the feminine revolution or the women revolution,
yes,
right, to have the power and do the same as a man, to engage into working both of them.
On purpose, because now they get twice as much taxes. Now, the
Exactly.
funny thing is, I'm into advertising and marketing, at least I was. Now, what happened during the women's revolution was a marketing expert, and the funny thing is, he's the nephew of Sigmund Freud. So he was in contact, understanding psychology. Why? So that he can manipulate And it all started because he got a campaign for cigarettes. And it's like, how could we double our cigarette sales? Well, it used to be taboo for women to smoke. So he set up a bunch of propaganda, part of the parades, and he got women and he got actresses and models to smoke cigarettes. And it was all part of what he called freedom for women. It was actually a bunch of bull feathers. He was simply trying to double sales of cigarettes, and he learned something, and he realized all he has to do is plant those seeds, and next thing you know, the public is all doing these things. Eggs and bacon, having the American breakfast. He was working for a pork company, and up to that point, people ate things like oatmeal and grains, and so anyway, it's a funny thing that he's actually related to Sigmund Freud, and they were doing letters back and forth so he can understand the psychology of human beings, but only to manipulate them, not to help.
Yeah, it looks like a common thing lately, unfortunately, right?
And how many women do I know, and they're trying so hard to be a part of the working force, and they're paying taxes, and their egos are like, I'm independent, I don't need a man, and yet
make more money than
you're working twice as much. And
Yeah.
but the bigger picture is now they're devoted to a man, but he's called boss. So it used to be the woman would be devoted to her husband, and she'd make him dinner, and she'd love him, and she'd have a wonderful life. But that's the power of the mind. So when you get marketers digging into these poor human beings' minds and messing with them, it convinces them to do the most craziest stuff, like spend their whole lives working and dying and never getting the sweetness of life, but being what? Obedient workers.
Enjoying and never get to enjoy the kids, their kids.
It's so sad. Even their own kids right in front of them.
They give the kids to take care of somebody else, and when they come back, they don't connect. And you can see these connections on the kid. The TV and the media is raising those kids.
Which is raising them just to be, again, more workers. It's not about their benefit. It's not about making wonderful people like an advanced future, like
critical
I was talking
thinking.
about.
It's not about critical thinking.
No, and if the more pain they can give those kids and frustration, the more those kids will grow up to make money so they can buy things that bring them pleasure. So most of the pleasure that people get in a working class system are things you buy: the drugs, the alcohol, the women,
the iPhone. People making lines to get the latest iPhone.
But
what
pleasure,
about that, right?
But that's the essence. The pleasure has to come from something that people buy. When in the old days it was from having good relationships, playing with the kids, smelling flowers with the kids, actually down to earth moments that what we call now. So you would feel pleasure now. And the current system, it's sometime in the future. You have to go through the rat maze first, and then you'll get the cheese at the end. But it's an illusion. They know darn well if they give the rats the cheese, they'll stop. Or give the donkey the carrot, he'll stop pulling the cart. So what they do is they make it a promise, but they never deliver. People work their whole lives, and they die without the sweetness of the rewards and carrots.
Yeah, it's true. When I entered your house, I saw a lot of artifacts and things. What are these, and why you made them?
Well, I'm experimenting. I'm using myself like a guinea pig, and I'm learning to explore my own creative ability, the spirit, the thing that makes us individuals and special. You know, society would tell them to buy the tennis shoe or to do this and do that. But in my mind, humans can be wonderful creatures. We're very magical, and as destructive as the world is nowadays, and that's very frustrating, we could also be very constructive. Amazingly. So I think out of choice A and choice B, I think if humans, instead of headed towards this destructive future, that if we headed towards a creative, constructive future, we can have a wonderful world here. We can build anything.
but it's not lucrative. That future doesn't make money.
Right. And there is an essence of the root of all evil, is that most human brains are programmed to not see the reality in front of them, including their own kids, but to see the value worths and numbers. So it's almost like it's complicating at number one. So instead of people seeing reality and the world in front of them, they're seeing, how do I survive? And it's a man-made economic system. Now, survival instincts are in all of us, animals, insects, plants. So this instinct to survive has now been rewritten with new blueprint in a man-made world instead of a natural world. Man-made world, yes, you must pay money for the food. In reality, I'll just climb the tree and eat it. But no, in the city, we're taught this man-made structure which relies upon money, and I know it sounds good. I was raised as a city kid, but after living in the mountains, I realized it's just a bunch of words and jumble in our heads. It's not reality.
No.
We can actually have a future society that doesn't even touch money. We can still make sure we got the food, the bread is baked, the guy's making the wine. Everybody makes what it takes for the city to balance and survive. And really, in fact, I hate to say it, most cities right now, it's money that holds them back. They'd like to do stuff, but they don't have the budget or the money. But you know what? They got the sand to melt down and make the glass. They got the metal. They got the technology and the hands, the actual people, to build amazing things. And they don't, because they think, or at least we've been programmed, that we need money in order to do it.
It's always the same thing, the middleman. We talk about the government make us believe that we need government in order to do X, Y, or Z. The doctors make us believe that we cannot heal ourselves. We need their medicine.
Right.
The priests, they told us that we cannot connect with God or whatever it is by ourselves. We need them.
Right.
Otherwise, we are fucked or even dead. Or even more than that, even after that, we can go to hell and suffer for all eternity. That I don't know what that means, but doesn't look good. I think it's the ultimate fear, right? Suffering from all eternity.
And that we need them to survive. But in marketing, we were convincing people they needed stuff every day. And that's the game. Convince people they're not just fine the way they are now. They need something more to then attain happiness.
Yeah.
And that's just the biggest bunch of bull feathers. And maybe 2,000 years ago, maybe it was advanced and maybe people needed it, but all this time has gone by. You'd think we'd have better systems by now. Does the guy that makes the bread really need to be manipulated and have psychology used to make him work so hard, or would he do it from his own heart because he's a part of a system where everybody's taking a little share, and they do it because they want to, not because they're whipped, not because they're manipulated? Even I myself would rather do it from my heart in a new system, let's say the utopia, and let the dystopia become a part of history. It was back when humans were more barbaric and still learning. And the idea of power over other human beings is just ego tripping, and the rewards aren't as good as getting along with your fellow human beings. Your family members, the friends, the people in your village. And when you get along and everything is in balance, the elations and the feel-goods are 100 times more than any making money or any of these old-fashioned reward systems, things you buy from the liquor store. It's real elation. It feels good in a real, down-to-earth way.
It's weird, the times we are living, because I believe, this is my personal belief, that we are very close to go all around the circle, and it's not a circle, it's like a spiral, right? Because we are in another layer, octave from before, because we have all these machines that they can do all the heavy work for us.
Right.
But many people say, and what we're gonna do? We're gonna do nothing? And I say, yes, why not? Just the beginning of the conversation, when you said we are all magical, we are all magic inside.
Yes.
Why we don't do nothing in search for that magical being inside of us, this magical part.
Imagine this, that for 5 or more thousand years, people have wondered what God, creator, made us and what's in front of us. So in my mind, humans may never see the actual picture of this big invisible God, but we have what makes God special right in our hands. He's the creator. So if God, other than, being this huge being, really, why is he so special? Because he created these things that make us marvel. Well, you know what? Rather than trying to attain this image of the God, or worship this character, let's worship the power of creativity that flows through us. Now, when you say, look at my house, it's like a museum, because I'm experimenting. I'm almost making a religion out of the creative power that flows through me that makes us all special, almost like what would make a God special. Why would we even care about gods unless it was attached to that creator aspect? Well, he's the creator that made all the stuff we marvel about.
Yeah, I don't think we are thousands of years far from that. I think we are very close.
Oh, very close.
Than,
in fact,
you
said it. You said it. Because technology and machines are doing all the real things. They're baking the breads. They're picking the apples. No, what happens is now humans have the whole day, and the bigger goal is, what do we do with the spare time? If we're not careful, idleness will lead to devil's work, and humans will go crazy if we're not careful. So what we need to do is we need something to focus our minds on. Mm-hmm. If it's not baking bread or climbing a tree to pick apples, that's when I say explore a creative spirit. So now if we're tinkering and being creative, like I'm building these robots out of lighter parts, I build machines out of just random stuff because I see it as like a jigsaw puzzle, and instead of 2-dimensional, it's 3-dimensional, and I'm making my own picture. So now through the day, I won't go crazy with idleness. I'm focusing my mind on my own creative power, and at the end of the day, I have something to show for my life, who I am, and even my spirituality and my belief in creativity.
How that started in you?
I think as a kid, because my mom was an actress in Hollywood, and she knew that I would start fussing because she had to work. She worked with some of the biggest stars, and she was a professional. So what she would do, she'd give me pen and paper and say, okay, draw that or do this, and she'd focus my mind on being creative, and then I would be peaceful. I'd be fine. Most kids, mommy, they cry and they're going through emotional things. She learned, even when I was a little boy, how to focus my mind on something creative, and then I can go the whole day tinkering, and I'm happy. I don't need anybody. So it's funny how all these years later, I'm an adult, but instead of doing antidepressants, I play with art.
And where your mind goes when you make something like the one we have in the world? Where your mind goes?
That's a wonderful question, because it connects with what we were saying about what I learned in advertising and oh my God, governments or religions, is they capture the minds with words. So when I find, and it's not just me, but even some of these painters have been in a field painting, what happens is the word part of the mind melts away, and we finally get peace. People spend years learning to meditate. They shoot themselves in the head trying to stop that mental world with all the words. So when somebody's totally engulfed in an art project, that world just melts away. And now any thought that does go through the head is reality.
Action.
And it's what's right in front of them in their hands.
Yeah. This action is not...
See, in my mind, words may be handy, but they're icons to the reality in front of us. And we can use it to talk and converse and communicate, but it's a secondary thing. Our heads filled with words is secondary. It's become the primary thing nowadays, which is, I think, a big problem. And now the real world has become secondary. No. We need to switch it around. And one of the ways to help us is by doing an art project. Because now we're getting into now. We're dealing with the moment. We're seeing what works. our intuition, now that doesn't work, that works, that looks good, and then you glue it. But you're in the moment of now, and you're feeling it in sensations and visuals, as opposed to then trying to put a label on the visuals and think about it later.
And when it's finished, when a piece of art you say, okay, that's it? When?
Believe me, as an artist, I can tinker. Even a painter will tinker forever. But I've learned.
That's why I'm asking.
I'm an editor on video and film, and so I do have to say, okay, this is good. Time to move on, because otherwise I can do little fixes, little fixes.
Your own life.
So I do a little bit of both. I still give it some time, and usually I go play with another project, and then I come back fresh. And then when you look at something, you're able to make those final touches and the polishing even easier. But I have to learn to say, okay, that's done. Let's move on. But I tend to juggle a lot of projects, so it doesn't bother me. So if I give up on one project, I'm done. I still have 7 others that I can play with.
Yeah, it's amazing. When you caught me with my guard low because I didn't know you, and when I enter and start seeing all these things, I love that stuff. I love that. I used to do a lot of things, but more with electronics when I was a kid.
Nice.
I used to make it. I like to make things better, right? So if I have a mono tape cassette, I want to do the stereo. And I want to do stereo hi-fi with output to an amplifier. And if I get the circuit, I will build it from scratch. And then maybe I can modify because I wanted to put it in that little tin box that I love it. So I modify everything based on the size of the components. And so when I see your stuff, for me it's similar. It's like you kind of build something. Your mind goes connect everything that looks unconnected, but your mind connect them.
Well, my art gets bigger and bigger and more thousands of little pieces because I like challenges. I love puzzles that get harder and harder. But we just made a full circle. So here's the difference between how people would spend the day. So if machines are making our bread and doing everything for us, and we have nothing to do all day, choice A, I guess, nowadays is poking at our phones and watching things made by other people and enjoying things made by other people. But in my mind, I would say we all could start tinkering. We could all start playing with reality right in front of us. And that's going to lead to much more happiness and like genuine reward systems. Our body's filled with like endorphins and serotonins and natural feel-goods, and accomplishments is part of that. So when humans actually start playing, and like you do, you're playing with the electronics, doesn't it feel good?
Yeah, I love it.
Exactly. For me, doing my art feels good enough to know that if we had an advanced civilization worshiping the power of creativity, we can get some very happy people.
It's true. And in my case, I never do nothing. Even when I do nothing, I remember once we were a few friends after hours in an open party, like open air party, and cool. We were like smoking like 7 a.m. after all the sound and everything, and we noticed that we could stay for hours without talking in total contemplation of reality, and was not bad or awkward. It's like perfect, like because we listened, we were present, we were not even thinking about anything. And was a moment of realization. I said, what just happened? We stayed like 1 hour, 2 hours, like hanging out in silence, and it's okay. And we put the name of that, and we labeled it like Beyond Zen, because you are not even, there is no label like to say, this is Zen meditation. It was not even that.
Ironically, that's part of what Zen people are doing. They're trying to shut off the monkey mind. They're trying to find peace from that. And but again, that's for thousands of years humans have been searching, and I'll tell you, they have not found it yet. And I'm not against any of the big religions or any of the big philosophies or anything like that. But in my mind, it's the bridge trying to get to this future where we're going to have the happy people. So exactly, when you see people at like an open air concert and she's dancing and she's spinning and she's feeling her own body, she's not trying to translate it into words in her head.
No.
That part of the brain is just set off to the side. She's feeling life, her own self, right then. And that's what they call the now.
Yeah.
Right now she's feeling good.
I believe that's the key word, feeling. It's feeling. It's not thinking, it's feeling.
We're actually sensing and feeling the world outside. Now, in my mind, the conscious brain, that's its job. We have, I think it's 70 trillion little specks of cells in our bodies that all have different jobs. And they work together, they integrate. But the speck that's in the driver's seat, and it's given the senses. So it's given eyes, sound, taste, feel to sense the world outside the self. So outside the temple, now its duty is to keep from walking off cliffs, to go collect food, if what we're even right now, to communicate, to sort of be the conscious connection to the worlds outside ourselves. It's the senses, and that's what spurred me. You said sensing. So the idea of sensing directly with our senses without then trying to compute it into words and icons that then represent reality later. There's the secret. They've been searching that for thousands of years, and it's been right in front of us all along. In fact, people are trying too hard. They're so in their head trying to get to this happiness. It's so ironic. It's the exact opposite.
It's like the opposite. It's when you say, I don't have to think, I need to meditate, I don't have to think. When you say that, you are thinking, and you are saying what you don't have to do, which is like you are doing it, in case of just nothing.
It's so now what at least at the moment everybody considers the primary way of looking at life from the head, secondary. That's secondary. I don't say get rid of it. I mean, it can still be handy, and we can count our sheep, things like that, use numbers and things like that, but it's a secondary thing. It should not be the primary way that humans look at life. Again, we're back at numbers, economics, man-made stuff in our heads, and we're screwing up the actual real world. Let's make the real world the primary, and secondary is our thoughts and icons and words.
I remember when I came to the US, the first things that I noticed is the measurements. Like when you see a baseball match, they measure the speed of the ball,
right,
accuracy, in case of focusing in the game. Oh, it's nice, it's not good. I don't care about the speed of the ball.
Yes.
I don't care who is the fastest throwing ball in the world. And the same thing when they start getting into football, like soccer, they call it here.
Yeah.
They start measuring how many these players run, how many shots, and how fast they run, and who cares, right?
But that's part of the illusion, that this technology and science is going to help us understand real life better. But it's yet another, it's bull feathers. It actually takes us further from connecting to the reality right now. And isn't that ironic, though? To this day, you have people spend their whole careers trying to get to the core of happiness in life, but they're getting further and further from it.
What do you think? Is on purpose, or is just coincidence?
Yeah, I think, that for thousands of years, we've had people that understand things about psychology and like that. And I think they're utilizing that in order to control us. In actuality, the blueprint designers of societies could easily make happier systems. So I don't want to blame human beings, especially us innocent souls, for being so thinking that if we read this big, thick book, it's going to lead to happiness, when in actuality, it's a bunch of words about reality, and now our head is filled with words. We're not sensing the real reality. So I don't want to blame the poor human beings or us for that. It's for those people that write the books, that make government rule books on how we're supposed to be. They've sort of taken advantage of that. And the funny thing is that those that did that, for thousands of years, they're all dead now. So there's no actual human beings that are in charge of us screwing with us. It's the thoughts that they are put in our heads that are now in all of our heads. So the bad guy isn't some big family or some wealthy person sitting in a throne somewhere, because even they are programmed with these old-fashioned ways.
Yeah.
Economics, control the workers, da-da-da. So even the most wealthiest, powerful people in this day and age are completely puppets themselves. It's the programming we need to rewrite.
It's interesting. Yeah, I believe into that. I believe
we can rewrite the blueprints to a whole new society. Let's call it the utopian city. We're building a new city. Well, we need to get rid of some of those old.
I have a new word, our topian, not utopian.
Yes,
our topian.
it is, and we're all a part of a big family now. We're patriotic.
Yeah, it's about awareness that we are all part of the same thing. It's only a different point of view.
In reality, the world is that. We're all a part of this big island, this big tribe, but it's only our programming in our heads that, and we are, I come from LA, we're programmed to be individuals. We don't need anybody. All we need is a good career and money, and we're so separate in our own minds from other people. And the funny, ironic thing is the things that we hide about who we really are, everybody's hiding. They're like, we're all trying to be these perfect robots. In actuality, we're all just human. It's so silly.
Yeah, what is funny is that the people believe that they are hiding, and they are not, because after all, you can see who is who after a little bit of.
Nobody's perfect, and yet we've all been trained to
okay.
give the perception that we're perfect. We finally attained this personality, and we're these perfect citizens. In actuality, it's just a bunch of programming that we accepted in order to survive in this man-made world we find ourselves. So the blueprint designers, they know what they're doing. They understand psychology. And it could be easily, these blueprints, rewritten to give more reward systems, happier people. They'll still bake the bread, or they'll still spend the day being positive, but they don't need to be manipulated or forced. So I deeply believe that we could move forward. We could have amazing societies.
Mm-hmm.
And these old things, they're history. Nobody would, I've heard too many complaints. Nobody's happy. And I've known a few of these elites and these very powerful people that have all the power. No, they're so unhappy. They do fight amongst themselves. They're so frustrated. They don't talk to their own kids. No. They don't connect with anything in reality. They're so caught up in the head. So in my mind, they would be better off in a new society where then they would be happy. So now, instead of sitting at a desk and controlling a city worth of people, they're actually splashing in the waterfall, playing with their loved one, their wife, and enjoying those moments of life before it's gone. How many of these elite are dying in their 50s? The most wealthiest family people, they're giving themselves heart attacks.
Look at Steve Jobs, for example. Right?
It's so sad. So, I have
Lately,
pity.
How many actors and people are dying like in less than 50.
That's the brain stressing people out and taking them further from happiness and reality, and it's all illusions.
Yeah.
So when I say it's completely positive to have a utopia instead of a dystopia, 100%. It's just a little bit of rewriting of the scripts and the blueprints. It's just a little bit of creative work. Let's rewrite some of these systems. And next thing you know, it's reality. Anything is possible, and how wacky the world's got is proof. Just look how crazy everything's got. That's proof that if that's the blueprint, we'll make it so.
Yeah, if it can go this way, it can go the same, but the other way.
Exactly. That's the power of the programming, the blueprints that humans write to make these civilizations.
So talking about middleman, I just realized that all these people obsessed with money is still a middleman, because you cannot eat money, you can do nothing with money. It's just to get something with that money.
Yes.
That if we can get it without money,
It's so easy.
right?
So easy. Imagine a city that can't build the building because they don't have money. In reality, they got the cement, the clay.
Exactly.
They just melt sand to make glass. It's so simple, and yet that's why I'm saying humans are so programmed in the head to think they need money, economics, and it's an old man-made world in our heads. It's about time to rewrite it.
I think it's about time. I think you're right.
I would vote for that, and I typically don't vote.
Me too. I vote. It's funny. I vote. I don't believe in the system. I think it's not the best way of government. So I want to complain.
But when you say
So I
a
vote.
government, so if, like what we were saying, that people really needed a government to look out for them and to keep them as good people getting along, how do we know that in a future system that the blueprint doesn't make us govern ourselves, and we do
I
it because
believe
we
that.
want to, and we don't steal from our neighbor because we want a balance, we want happiness, we don't want to go into war with our neighbor.
And because if we have abundance, we don't need what the neighbor has,
Yes.
right?
See, that's the other thing, right? In this world nowadays, people are struggling just to keep the roof over their heads, for food, and now you get into survival. So imagine we got more than enough food, it's growing everywhere, and we got everything we need, and we have the abundance. Of course, a future world is possible. We're stressing over silly stuff nowadays, and it's all illusions. It's not even reality. We have enough food, we have enough shelter, we have the ingenuity to make more advanced water systems. We're sort of being held back in this past because of this old programming. So when I say let's rewrite some new programming, oh heck yeah, because we can zoom forward like at the, I don't know about speed of light, but you know what I mean? We can be actually moving forward, make a new utopian city or a civil system, and we'd have it simply because we did it,
Yeah.
and not because we stayed in limbo. They used to say, well, if you really study history your whole life, you won't avoid it. But in a sense, you're looking the wrong way. You're looking backwards. You're looking at history when humans were making mistakes every day. If we turn forward 180 degrees and look at the future, we're now creating new systems, new things from scratch. Because
Yeah, but we need to look forward to avoid those mistakes, because we have a huge database of mistakes, of things that we don't have to do and things that we know they work.
like okay, the thieves, people stealing. Right now, when they interview a lot of these guys that end up in prison, they were just trying to survive, feed their families. They didn't know what else to do. They didn't have the education to get some great job, so they saw an opportunity, so they tried to be smart to figure out. My bank was robbed. I actually tried to calm down the bank robber. He was like 19. I felt for the poor kid because him and his friend went running out of the bank with the money, and I watched them jump into the car, and the next thing you know, a big purple explosion. And these poor two kids are covered in purple, and they're throwing out purple money as they're driving down the alleyway. And I thought, those poor kids, they were programmed, just watching TV,
Yeah.
and next thing you know, they're mimicking these things. It didn't have to be like that. It could have been, like we're talking, a future society where everything's in abundant. People are not struggling to survive, where they have to break their own morals, break the morals with their neighbors. We could have easily wonderful lives. It's just you take a little bit of creative juices, rewrite the programs and the blueprints of society, and that's how we're going to get it. Just put that effort in the right direction.
Do you have any idea about the blueprints, how to start?
Well, one of the things I did was I wrote a book called Dynamics. I don't know if we have a lot of readers here, but I do talk about that. I have a lot of chapters that actually dissect how, and I don't even tell future humans how to do it or what to do. I'm just saying there's formulas that would lead to doing it. See, I don't want to dictate what let's say, the utopia would be. I want to say get people connected with their creative powers and juices to at a round table all the wise people would be able to put it together. I love playing with it in my own mind, but I know there's smarter people, and working together would be wonderful. I actually took the old 1927 film, or is it 29? Metropolis, and I re-edited it. I changed all the German to English. I do special effects.
The movie from Fritz Lang.
Yes. Yeah. And I rewrote it all in English. I used a lot of special effects. But then I had a narrator come in and tell the story in English. And I changed the story to exactly what we're talking about. The switch over from an old dystopian city and society to the utopian. And it's the son that helps the father get the clue. And the father's just programmed with the old ways. He's just another robot. But the son is younger and more connected with his intuition and his heart, basically. So it actually made it onto Amazon. So Amazon Prime, if you check out Metropolis Retrofit. So that's my version. And it is the process of making that switch over to a wonderful future.
We are going to put all these notes and links in the text. So.
It's a fun way of what we're talking about, and so, to some people that sounds scary, trying to change societies and rewrite blueprints. No, and it's actually like a puzzle. I love puzzles like that.
Somehow we are doing it every day, right?
People want it.
Yeah.
It's just we're not taught to be creative. So it's harder to create new systems. In fact, in this society, art and artists is like, we're shunned. That ain't gonna make money. How many fathers are telling their sons, that ain't gonna make money? No, quit doing that. My own dad used to tell me, no, you do a balance sheet on, for the last week, and I want to see it all, then I'll be impressed. And he was a millionaire accountant, very successful, being one of those citizens that we're all taught we're supposed to be, yet he was so unhappy.
Yeah, I understand.
So unhappy. So indeed, I made my own version, Metropolis Retrofit, as a fun way to show how easy it can be. We can shift from the old ways to the new ways.
I love that.
And it's about time. I think people would love lives where we can have happiness, get along with each other. All the frustration you hear nowadays is so sad.
100 years later, right? It's funny.
It's about 100 years.
Yeah.
It's been 100 years. And I understand where he was going with that. So I grabbed the reins and I went with it. And I decided to take that artistic license to rewrite a whole new script. There's a narrator now telling the story, and so rather than trying to lip sync with the old story, I figured let's just let it go, almost like I'm saying about societies. Let go of the old ways. Let's just rewrite the new ways and not be limited. The old ways, we've been trying to band-aid for a long time. Let's try and fix this. Let's try and fix that. And it's like it just gets worse and worse. Why not write something that's not broken in the first place?
Exactly.
Especially when it comes to civil systems and
electing system, government system. Everything has to be a loser, and I don't understand why. We are taught that if somebody wins, somebody has to lose, and I don't take that. I imagine a way that everybody wins.
Yes. Yeah, and the best trade, I won't even call it business, because let's say we went back to apples for oranges. It's when both people are happy. Good deal.
Exactly.
Thank you for the avocados. And then I did. Here's the bread I baked. And now we're all happy. That's the best. And I won't even call it business, because I think that puts us back in the old ways. It's trading and learning to work together in the tribe that we're all a part of. And now the guy that's really good at banging out horseshoes, because he's the blacksmith, and he makes a new horseshoe for this horse that's tilling the potatoes that then makes his dinner. Exactly. It all works out perfect.
Yeah, somebody say to me, if everybody share what they have in excess, will be no problems.
So easy.
It's
Humans
so easy, right?
are smart enough to do that. I know that.
It's very simple. but somehow we are scared, or we want to have more than this guy, and we need the reprogramming.
That may not be human nature, because human nature is mammals, and we do work in tribes. We're like mammals tend to be in groups. So I wouldn't say it's us, like we have a problem thinking like that. I think that's some of the programming. We're told these thoughts that, oh yeah, squirrel away the nuts for an emergency. Oh, that's my message. And so, but good thing you can edit. So
I don't know if I want to do that.
Yeah, that's my message thing. So whenever somebody wants to send me a message, I got to do something different. I always got to break some rules. So yeah, indeed. So I wouldn't want to blame the poor citizens for having these wrong thoughts of trying to be animalistic and survive. No, that's what people are told.
Yeah, but I believe that we have choice at the end. We have a choice to do it or not. Some of us, they are more into survival mode, that we can't look into that option because we are surviving. But some other people, they have somehow easier lives, but they don't even look at that because they're working for them. So they say it's okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you go around and interview LA, this big, vast city, I agree we have choices, but there's very few of us that even know there's a choice B. Most people, this is just the way life is. You work your whole life, then you buy your food, and you have your shelter, and that's just the way it is. Choice A. Most people would never think about science fiction future civilizations where we're just trading and working together. They definitely don't make stories like that in Hollywood. You'd think with all the power of Hollywood, all my years of working on, never once did we do a utopian society. We don't want to show the people how to just be happy on their own. No, because then everything, is complete opposite.
Imagine if that happened, right?
But that's would be, you plant a seed of a whole more advanced system where we're not reliant on a government or religions or anything else outside of ourselves to tell us what to do. We have the intuition and we live from our hearts, and be happy. It's 100% possible, but for a person to feel powerful in their own selves, they have to have a righteous life, treat their family members wonderfully, a balance. So what we did in Hollywood is we taught people to sin, left, right. And the more people, even though, deep down we think, oh, I guess I can get away with it if I do this or that. Deep down we don't get away with it, because what it does is it breaks our balance in our own souls. Now our own souls are out of balance, because we all have little guilty things if we won't admit it. So even though people are getting away, because on our stories we did in Hollywood, we'd have families lying to each other, cheating, stealing, trying to be sneaky, and we would never show a family that was really living wonderful lives. And what happens is now people emulate the role models they see. And we all have these role models. We like these actors. Yeah. So what happens is now if we start mimicking that stuff, and most of it is, it's lying, cheating, stealing, killing. Actually, some of these big role models are shooting each other. And I've known some of these people from the military, snipers. They've never been the same. Once somebody's killed another human being, they're never going to be happy, peaceful, have that wonderful bliss that we'd like to see in the future societies. No,
because they knew that whatever reason they say is not true. It's not the right thing.
Not. And then that's the sad thing, it's too late. Their souls will never get the balance we're talking about.
So I like this one. Ron, thank you very much. I think this is going to be continue another day. I really love it. I don't want to do it too long. I like to make it listenable for the listeners. In the podcast page, there is a form that if somebody likes something or any idea or want more, they can do it. It's open.
Okay, so I think most people would agree it's time for changes. It's time to get rid of so much frustration and pain and agony and abuse and some of the barbaric stuff that happens these days. It's ridiculous. How are humans going to feel good about themselves and be these advanced beings when we're still so barbaric?
Barbarian stuff. Always, all the time.
So if on your website, if we want to make a list and actually have a discussion, sit around the round table and say, let's rethink our future societies, that's exactly how we're going to get those future societies.
We do something like this. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.